Hello, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time to join us here on the AM show. It's now time to delve into the papers. And joining me to do that this morning is a Volta Regional President of the Ghana Institute of Surveyors, Maxwell Lukutor. He's also the NDC's parliamentary aspirant for South Tongue. Good morning to you, and I hope you're doing well this morning.
I hope you are doing well too.
Yes, I am. Let's just go straight to the front pages of the papers. I've got the Daily Graphic, the Business Finder, the Daily Statesman, Daily Guide, and Ghanaian Times. Now, one story that cuts across on the front page of all these papers is the president's inauguration of the police barracks at Kwabinya. And we've been talking a lot about accommodation for service personnel, and it's just interesting to see this latest development. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, good morning once again, and we are happy these things are happening. We need to see more of this because sincerely our accommodation challenges are enormous. And if you drive to the cities of Accra and very major cities, you realize that there are many people who sleep at very uncomfortable places. And then even those who are able to rent facilities, most of them have facilities very far away. And the challenges they face driving through or commuting between their facilities and their workplaces is very dire. And so I believe that the time is due for us to look at this situation and make sure that we replicate same all over the country and at very major places where the population is very dense and people needing accommodation every now and then. These challenges are usually the ones that lead to people or agents exorbitantly extracting from people in the name of assessing accommodation. The agents charge as much as sometimes 10% and over. And there are a number of months or years you have to pay for. Sometimes it becomes so huge that it takes a lot from people, and people are going through torture and trying to pay their rents and other things. And so I believe that once we make this facility is very available, it reduces the pressure and the cost on trying to arrange for some of these facilities. So I would say that we need more of this. The only challenge we have is cost of building materials and all other things. The cost of accessing land to be able to build these things becomes a humongous challenge to most people. You start a project and so many people come claiming the land is theirs because our land tenure system is not very defined and refined. You see that people are challenged trying to access these facilities and getting them done in record time. Sometimes you would plan that within 6 months or a year you should be done with building, but before you see, many things will go haywire and you'll be behind schedule. And it eats into the cost of the project and eventually translates into the cost of rent and many other things. So I believe that government can take us such challenges and be able to replicate same over major cities. It will go a long way to help us as Ghanaians and help reduce the pressure.
And sorry if I get you, Mr. Lukutor, if I get you, this should move beyond providing for policemen or other service personnel to the entire populace.
Yeah, of course. So I mean that beyond the security services, the individuals, you and I, also need such facilities. I mean that if government is done providing for these security services, the next people will be for us. I remember a lot of promises by this government, and even KIAs were promised residential facilities, you remember? And so it means that we are not off, or we are not supposed to be off. So if this are done to the security services, where you see them close to their workplaces, then it helps them commute very easily and also have a sound mind to be able to perform their duties and responsibilities. And so, by extension, I am saying that this is good for the security services. But beyond that, the individual should also be factored into this. Housing is one of the very few demands in management. The first thing will be food, then shelter, then other things will follow. So my point is that beyond food, the next thing man will be thinking about will be where to lay his head before other things will come into play. So it's a good initiative, but I mean that we should do it wider and bigger than we are seeing now. This looks like a drop in the ocean. And so once we are able to sort out things better, we should be able to expand. We have some few government lands available. That once we do these things, there are a lot of people who will be interested in renting them. And that rakes in a lot of money for government and for the states as well.
All right, so let's move on to the big story on the front page of the Daily Graphic. Political capture of media risky. And this is from the State of the Ghanaian Media reports published by the University of Ghana's Department of Communication. And 2 days ago, we hosted the head of that department who gave us some highlights of that report. But this one is an interesting one. Let me just read a portion of the story by Timothy Ngembe. Political capture of the media landscape has been identified as a major threat to media freedom and the country's democracy, according to a research conducted by the Department of Communication of the University of Ghana. There was an increasing concentration of the media in the hands of partisan actors who controlled the public space through their media empires. The study, dubbed the State of the Ghanaian Media report, stressed that although there was a semblance of media pluralism in the country, the media is actually concentrated in a few powerful hands. So beyond the issue of the political capture of the media, there's also opaque ownership, financial viability, working conditions of journalists, safety of journalists, and all that. What are your impressions first of the study and the conclusions or findings thereof?
Please on your camera.
Hello, Mr. Lukutor. Hello, Mr. Lukutor. Hello, Mr. Lukutor. Did you hear my question, please?
Please, madam.
Mr. Lukutor, can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Did you get my question?
No, you started talking about the political capture of the media.
Yes,
I didn't hear that.
Yes, and that's actually from the study, the State of the Ghanaian Media report published by the University of Ghana's Department of Communication. And it's just an aspect of that report which says that although there appears to be media pluralism, the media is actually concentrated in a few powerful hands. They also talk about safety of journalists, financial viability, and all that. I'm just asking what your quick impressions are of the study.
Yeah, of course. Whether fortunate or unfortunate, the media, it's in the hands of the private individuals. And the private individuals veer into politics, or politicians veer into establishing media houses. And so it's a dicey situation. For me, it is about the policy of the media house as to how they intend to run their business. There are ethics governing the use of media. And so the individual decides how it should go, or the media house decides how they intend to run their business as a media house. Ideally, the media is supposed to be the fourth arm of government. And so you are supposed to put government in check. And so there's always a difficulty striking the balance between a station owned by a politician and whether he has to do only the bidding of that politician or that of the state. I mean, checking or putting the state in check, or whether to do the bidding of the master. And so for me, it is the individuals involved and how they are able to take these things lying down. As a journalist, I expect that professionalism is key in whatever you do. So you may have to decide whether you believe that your professionalism will be above whatever your so-called master dictates and decides that you should do. You see very few people running away from these media houses because they are not given the hand and the room to operate the way they should. And so I believe that our conscience should guide us in how we do these things. And as a politician, if you establish a station, are you establishing it as a business, or you are only establishing it to cut down your political opponents?
But what does it look like to you? What does it look like to you? And I know that you've mentioned about private individuals getting into politics, but we know politicians who own media houses. Okay, so what does it look like to you?
It looks like most of you play to the gallery and do your master's bidding. I mean, the owner of the media house. I see very few media houses like Joy trying to always strike the balance between what is good and bad. And despite your leanings as individuals, you try to always keep government on its toes. But there are some who go up to the left or up to the right. They only do the master's bidding. But more of you are leaning to doing the bidding of your master, not necessarily putting government to check. And so I believe that a smaller percentage are doing quite good, but majority are playing more to the gallery and doing their master's bid.
And this, the report says, is risky. We all know what the impact of this is. How do we handle the situation then?
I think the national media, the regulatory body for the media house, should be able to put its feet down and down whoever has set up the media station. There are rules of engagement, and they have to ensure that these things are adhered to. We all belong to professional bodies. We set up our businesses and companies. For instance, I belong to the Ghana Institute of Surveyors. I'm a licensed surveyor. We are not supposed to advertise. We are not supposed to do some things. And my regulators come around and ensure that these things are done. And so if your regulator comes around and makes sure that what is to be done is what you do, it takes away the split power of the owner of the station. And so it all boils down to regulation. And so I think that if the people themselves don't want to live by the tenets of the regulatory body, they have to be kept in line. And so you have set a radio station, a TV station, but there are some content that you cannot show. And so if the National Media Authority is able to put its feet down and ensure that these things are done properly, you see that there will be some sanity brought into the system. And I want to say that it's the media house and the individuals involved. You are a professional. You went to school to get trained, to come and practice. If you go to a media house and somebody dictates to you how to run your show, while the person himself might not be a media person, you would have to put him down and tell him, oh, boss, this is what we are supposed to do. We can't do this. This is what we do. If you won't live by what you know and try to push across, the best thing may be for you to move from there and look elsewhere. But unfortunately, the person, if you live there, how do you also feel? So it comes out to ability to attract other better situations. Like we are saying, they are saying that your conditions are not the best. Of course, we all know how little you are paid, or we know that you are underpaid. And so sometimes we also want to feel for you that if I leave, how do I feel? How do I put body and soul together? So you are tempted to be in there and to do some things that may be against your conscience as an individual. And so there are so many things that plague even the individual. And I believe that once we're able to put things, it may all boil down to regulation and making sure that things are done right. Once we are able to do these things, I'm sure we can have some sense of sanity in the media.
Now, on the front page of the Daily Guide, the big story there, Mahama Brian comments, not criminal, says IGP. And the details are captured on page 3. The story is by Vincent Kubi. The Ghana Police Service says the statements made by former President John Mahama and Brian Champong, a Greek minister, had all failed the criminal threshold test. Same was said about remarks made by the national chairman of the main opposition party, Johnson Esiedun Ketia. However, statements by the Swami NDC youth organizer were patently criminal and had breached the laws of the Republic. And the police legal unit, we are told, scrutinized the politically controversial statements to ascertain if they meet the criminal threshold of the law before effecting arrest. And you know the petition sent by your party, the NDC. Now, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare, IGP, made this revelation following a meeting held by the police service and leadership of the New Patriotic Party and the NDC. And this was to discuss recent happenings. Now, the law is the law. You can't, effect an arrest if you cannot put a charge on someone's action or inaction. But what about the moral sense of these comments that have been made over time?
Thank you very much. I was surprised when some MPP folks had to put President John Mahama's statement together and petition the IGP to look into it and bring out the criminality aspect of it. I was surprised. This statement was made so many years ago. And for those of us who went to secondary school and were taught by very good teachers, we know what some of these phrases mean. There are idioms, there are proverbs, there are things we say that do not have direct meaning by the singular words. And so if somebody says, "Or die, be die," and another person says to, like, do or die, the do or die thing, I really don't know why somebody will be taking it up and wanting some form of investigation into that. Because in English, you understand what it is.
But as it is now, sorry to interject. Sorry to interject, Mr. Lukutor. Sorry to interject, Mr. Lukutor. Your party also petitioned the police, okay? Now, the police says Mr. Mahama, Mr. Bryony Champon's comments are all out of the criminal threshold, okay? But the one involving the NDC Swan Youth organizer. So my question is, the law is the law. You can't place a charge when you cannot find the law to do so. But there are moral leanings and inclinations to this. So what about that aspect? Whether they're using it as an idiomatic expression or not, there are people who've raised concerns about the potential of those statements to stir up a certain action among the grassroots political actors. So, for you, whether Mr. Mahama or Bryony Champon, the police says we cannot effect an arrest on all of them, including your chairman as well. So, the law exonerates them. But what about our moral conscience?
Yes, sure, I agree with you. And my point is that, you see, when you see the history of Bryony Champon, his posting during the Ayawaso West Wagon election, and then the consequences thereafter, and based on what he's saying, and the atmosphere in which he said what he said, in the recent past, we saw what characterized his approval as the Minister of Agri. People were holding this Ayawaso West Wagon situation against him, so he has a history. And so the elders say that if you are smelly, you don't also pass bad air in public. And so I believe that Bryony Champon is already, in quotes, smelly, and so he shouldn't be passing bad air. And so the comment he made, people may want to look at it. This guy has a history, and if he's saying this, that we are never going to hand over power to the NDC, it makes it look as if his foot is on some stone and he's threatening that he's going to throw it at someone. And you see, my point is that, yes, the law is the law, but the antecedents thereof. It is good people are called to order. I believe that the Mahama issue has been overflowed. It's been long, it's been sorted out. Bryony Champon is recent. We have to put the brakes on some of them. If we don't make the noise, somebody will tell Bryony Champon made some statement, nothing really happened to him. I could also say this and go scot-free. And he will go and say something else, which is more serious than what he has said. And people will take up arms and will begin to do very serious and dangerous things. For that of the Swam Youth Organizer, yes, the law is the law. Whatever the law deems necessary and fit, they may have to apply that. And I think that when some of this is happening, it's precedence for some other people who may want to say something in the future to be guided by what the law says, so that you don't make frivolous statements and incite others. And so, yes, of course, yes, I am a person who believes in principles and rules. And so I think that the law should take its course, and then we see how it runs out at the end of the day. So the law is the law. So we should all be guided by some of these things. The police service is supposed to guide us as to what to do and what not to do. That's why they are there. And so they shouldn't leave us to just go haywire and begin to blast everywhere we go. We have to be guided by what we say.
Closely linked to that story about the IGP meeting the NDC is another captured on the front page of the Ghanaian Times, and it's on page 4. MPP NDC urged to allow police carry out duties. The police administration has urged the MPP and NDC to concentrate on their political activities and give the law enforcement agency the space to execute its mandate. Noting that policing interventions were put in place to address their concerns, the police service said it needed the support of the parties, including constructive criticism, in order to do professional work in line with its constitutional obligation. And this was in a statement issued by Director of Public Affairs, ACP Grace Ansah Akrofi. And this was also after a meeting between the police, the MPP, and NDC. It was called at the instance of the Inspector General of Police. And this was because of the press commentary and all that we've just discussed. Now, there are further details given also on the arrest and prosecution of some 14 members of the MPP for disturbances during a party constituency election. Also, the setting up of a dedicated legal team to subject all political related incidents to legal scrutiny. And also on the election-related cases, including Techiman South and Otodudio constituencies, the police says the public will be duly updated in the course of the week. Now, your party has been very critical of government, i.e. the police handling of what happened in Techiman during the past elections. Does this give you some relief that the police says there will be an update soon?
It's always said that justice delayed is justice denied. And so how long has this been? Over 3 years. And we are also getting into another election year. And those things that happen in an election year would wait for 4-5 years before the investigation is done. How then do we learn lessons going into the next election? So it is not just satisfying hearing assurances from the police service. I believe that by now, if serious works were done or investigations were done, by now we would have seen the end of this and known exactly what happened and what didn't happen. And so for me, the assurances alone are not satisfying. We should be satisfied seeing them doing something. But if you just leave it ajar and you keep promising us that something will be done, for me, it may not be the best that we are expecting as Ghanaians. There are some situations that very swiftly you see the end of it. So why are we delaying so much with some of these investigations? The earlier it's done, the better it is for us to learn lessons and then plan towards the next elections. And so for me, it's not gratifying. They should be able to do better than we are seeing them do.
There's this one in the daily graphic which excites me. Maternal deaths reduced in Upper East. Maternal deaths reduced from 43 in 2021 to 27 in 2022 in the Upper East region. That's according to the Regional Director of Health Services. And he made this known during the annual review of the health directorates there. Now, this represents an institutional maternal mortality ratio of 65 per 100,000 live births, as against 98 per 100,000 live births. This is exciting. And I don't know what your quick thoughts are on our efforts in reducing maternal mortality. It's really sad when you hear the stories of some very young, vibrant women who go to the labor ward and never return. This is definitely a step in the right direction. Your thoughts on that?
Sure, yes, it's a step in the right direction, but every death, one death is one too many. And so I think that we should be striving towards a zero death per whatever percentage we are talking about. But whatever it is, reducing from 95 or whatever to 65 thereabout, I think it's a good thing, and we have to appreciate the Ministry of Health for a good job done. Nurses, Aiko, many times we'll embarrass them for some of their inactions, and I believe that once they do well, we need to tap them at the back and say Aiko for a good job done. And so there are very many of them who are very sharp and very focused in whatever they do. There are also some of them who are lax. You go to the facilities and they are only playing with their phones, and they seem not to be too serious with whatever we think they should be doing. Of course, sometimes we speak to them to understand that there are some people who they claim over-dramatize their situations, and because they've seen very serious situations and critical ones before, some of those ones look little in their eyes. But to us as a people, every little thing is worth running and clustering over to make sure that the right thing is done.
Right.
So especially in birth, when you see some of these things happening, somebody carrying a pregnancy over a period of 9 months and just within a period of a day or less than 2 hours, delivering, and then she's gone. It's very pathetic. And it affects the whole society, the child that may be born, the husband, the parents, and everybody. And so I will have to say I go to Ministry of Health and the practitioners and pray that it further reduces, and we are sure that we are getting there. Apart from that, for now, we'll say I go to the Ministry of Health and the practitioners.
Right. Finally, before I let you go, your party is gearing up for the primaries. You're hoping to be the next parliamentary candidate for South Tong for the NDC. Tell us how things are shaping up.
Let me use this opportunity to say hello to my constituency executives, Chairman Mike Chikudo, Secretary Egbenya Lawe, and the rest of the branch executives who are all delegates. On 13th of May, we'll be going to the polls. And Maxwell Lukutor, who has been around for some time, is also contesting again. I am the number 4 on the ballot paper, and on the ground, it looks quite good. The delegates have seen me over a period and believe in my track record. They believe in my consistency and being truthful to them, being loyal to them. And I believe that this time around, they're going to reward me with this parliamentary seat. And I promise I'm not going to take it for granted. And we're going to do the best to make sure that whatever is due our constituency and our district, we have it. I wish to be a good representative of my people. I promise that whatever they need from me as an individual, not based on what I know as a person. Of course, I'll use my knowledge and abilities and the skills I do have, but more will be consulting everybody who matters. Everybody matters in administration. So as a leader, all you need to do is that you go to them constantly and to seek their mandate by asking them what things you are doing right and what things you are not doing right, so that by that you could lead them by example. They say the society begets their leader. And so I wish to be who they want me to be. It's looking good on the ground, tiring, tedious, but I am happy about the results I'm seeing. Right. And so it urges me to push on and to do the best for my people. I wish all of them the best, and I pray that for those I have met already, if there are issues still, I'll still come back. Those I'm yet to meet, they should expect me in their hood very soon, and I'm coming with very good messages to them. And I expect to interact very well with them and get on with whatever we have to do. I'm happy for them, and they should also be happy for me.
Right.
I hear very good stories about myself, and sometimes I get amazed how I'm able to do some of the things they said I have done in the past. The Asantis will say at the panel, Tony, you go to places and people are able to extol your good virtues and some of the things you've done in the past for which they believe that you are going to do better in the future. And so it makes you happy and it excites you. So I am grateful to all of them who see the goodness in me. All right. And are fighting day and night and praying and hoping that on the 13th of May this year, the delegates are going to vote for 4x4. I am number 4, and so my name now is 4x4. They say they want to join the 4x4. And my tagline is Amasu, not Otroye. I hope you understand that.
No, I don't. You'd have to explain it.
Ask Benjamin Akako, he will explain to you.
All right. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Maxwell Lukutor is Volta Regional President of the Ghana Institute of Surveyors and also hoping to be the next parliamentary candidate of South Tong on the ticket of the NDC. Well, it's now time to take a breather for sports, but when we come back, we zoom into our big stories. The first one is that rather disturbing news about Ghana being cited as a transit for the illegal or illicit shipment of gold. We've got details of that shortly. Do stay here on the AM show with us.